Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for tuning in. Eric, H526, Luke St. Martin, thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about. To my super chat, I'm walking on eggshells nowadays. It is so difficult to talk about things, and I wanted to do this live stream this evening and maybe do more. I don't know. Every day I wake up, sometimes I say I want to do live streams. Sometimes I say I'll just do uploads. But to my super chat, thank you. You really give me every incentive to rock these live streams, but you also support my voice. And I want to thank you. This hopefully is a format where I can kind of, talk about what's going on without, saying anything egregious, which I don't do. Thank goodness I have pristine status and relationship with YouTube, so that's fantastic. But your support via Super Chat is tremendously appreciated. The best thing you could do for this channel is just tell your friends and family who would enjoy my viewpoint. Obviously, don't tell anybody who wouldn't like my vantage point. But if you know people who would enjoy my take on things, please share this, segment, this channel. Tell them to subscribe. And to Luke St. Martin, Eric H526, I call him Quick Draw, Luke St. Martin, and the Regulator, Eric H526. Thank you so very much. And let's get started. The Wall Street Journal today came up with a pretty, I like the Wall Street Journal, but it's a pretty vapid, sophomoric argument. It's, well, if Trump is so great, why do Democrats run the government? And it kind of ignores every possible conceivable advantage that Democrats have. Every single night, ladies and gentlemen, every single night, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert, at least a quarter of, and then they're like our other talk show hosts, a quarter of their performances or their shows are designated and devoted to just undermining Trump, disparaging Republicans, trying to mock and denigrate anyone associated with Trump, and furthering Democratic Party talking points. Every single night. That's just with late night. So you have the Wall Street Journal, before we get into the fact that, Democrats have really the smallest majority, one of the smallest majorities in Congress in history. Something like 10 or 12 House seats. And you need Vice President Kamala Harris as the tiebreaker. So, ladies and gentlemen, you have a situation where the Wall Street Journal and maybe other publications are thinking, well, maybe there can be something different from Trump. If we had somebody more along the lines of Mitt Romney, or more of an acceptable Republican who didn't offend people, maybe you'd get the enthusiasm and the passion and the electricity and the energy that Trump brought. But the reason he brought those things is because he's different. Now, he fell into a trap. He shouldn't have continuously utilized Twitter every day in the manner that he did. They fed off of that. And they utilized that to gain momentum, political momentum. They utilized that to gain this spiritual sustenance almost Every day you had thousands upon thousands of people, either pundits or people with, perhaps a sizable Twitter following. You had people who would wake up and they would say, what did Trump write this time? What did he write? What did he write? And in addition to late night, which is the Wall Street Journal doesn't take that into account. And when I talk about late night, I'm talking about all of Hollywood, all of the music industry, every social media tech, platform, political operatives, the entire Democratic Party, and the Republican Party, and corporate America. I should say, and maybe a quarter of the Republic, or a sizable portion of the Republican Party, all against Trump. Always against Trump. Always against Trump. Every single day he had to contend with investigations from Jeff Sessions, from Richard Burr, from Paul Ryan. He had to deal with a dossier that was purchased by his direct political rival, and nobody in the Republican Party said, wait a second, you can't use a dossier purchased by Clinton and the DNC. You can't do that. Nobody defended him because they were going after him. They were investigating him based on a tinfoil hat, nonsensical theory. They spent 4 years trying to delegitimize Trump, trying to say he was an illegitimate president. They spent 4 years every single day saying that he was not legitimate, that he was a Putin puppet. They trusted James Clapper, but they didn't trust Trump. And then they said, well, he's undermining confidence in our institutions. They came up with these really hilarious complaints. He's undermining confidence in our institutions. What? What do you mean he's undermining confidence in our institutions? You mean investigating an incoming president because of Facebook ads, half of which were seen after the election? What do you mean undermining trust in our institutions? And when did Putin become our primary adversary? I thought President Obama came in with a Russian reset. So it's like, there's no president. There is no president that would be able, there's no president that would be able, Democrat or Republican, to overcome the disadvantages that Trump had. You had so many disadvantages. You had so many, he had to contend with so many obstacles in addition to himself. So, he had to contend with a lot of obstacles. It's true. That's true. And they were going after him. They were setting him up. They were framing him. Every single day, you had media that was apoplectic, seething, fuming, disgruntled. This fanatical, zealotry. They devoted their lives to their existence to taking down Trump. This fanaticism. They were fanatical in their zeal. They were obsessed with blaming everything on Trump, leaving no stone unturned. But when you had Biden's son, oh no, Hunter's. No. The laptop? No, you can't even touch that. You couldn't even touch the laptop. Because that was an example of disinformation from perhaps Russia. I mean, maybe there was this Russian disinformation. And people believed it. People actually believed it. So you didn't have an actual opposition party. You didn't have a Republican Party that offered the country an opposing viewpoint. And you don't have an objective media. Media is not objective. And I don't know what it'll take for the Washington Post or the New York Times not to be overt, blatant newsletters of the Democratic Party, DNC newsletters. I mean, it's never been this way. They've always had a slight, you could say they had a slight bias, but when it was a scandal or a controversy, whether it was Bill Clinton, oh my goodness, they were so unfair to me. What is? I mean, what was I doing wrong? I was just in the Oval Office, minding my own business. We were talking about intercontinental ballistics. I needed a prop. And then they went after me. And then they says, what is? I said, well, I is not having relations. There you go. Did I lie? How can I when I is with you? So what is? When I is talking to you, how can I have any relations? So they went after they definitely went after the left or Democrats back in the day. Paul Bartlett, hello. They definitely went after Democrats and investigated. There was investigative journalism. You know how many publications are devoted to propping up only Democratic Party talking points and viewpoints and ideology? Washington Post, New York Times, Daily Beast, Vanity Fair, Esquire, Rolling Stone, The Nation, Mother Jones. I mean, it's endless. You have, you could pretty much pretty much every publication out there is devoted to just telling you how horrible, what a monster Trump is. So how on earth, when the Wall Street Journal today says, well, if Trump was so great, why is it that Democrats have a tiny majority, and they have every conceivable possible advantage. If you play a football game and it's 11 men versus 5 men, and you're playing in the frozen tundra, and you're a team that needs you play in a dome, and every conceivable disadvantage. You're playing with 6 less players. You're playing away. The ball's deflated. Oh, that's what I'm talking about. And every single possible, you have only all-pro Hall of Famers on the other side. You have every conceivable disadvantage. And the team with 11 players only wins by a field goal or by 2 points or by 1 point. Because of a last-second field goal. What do you think would have happened if the team with only 5 players had actually 11 players suit up? Or if it was 11 players and on their home field, and the balls weren't deflated, and it was in a dome where you could utilize the team's speed, and it was on AstroTurf? What do you think would happen? They'd probably win by a wide margin. President Trump has run a 40-yard dash with a 200-pound backpack. Now the news, hello. Mitch McConnell. Trump rightfully blamed Mitch McConnell today. I can't believe he blamed me. I mean, I'm a fiscal conservative. And even though we had the worst financial crisis in 3,000 years, it was important to save that hard-earned tax dollars. So they only gave $600, not 1,000 or 2,000. You don't, negotiate on $2,000 stimulus checks when people need, you're running against Democrats who say, we're going to give you $2,000. At least they have the good sense. To not give the $2,000 once they get their achieved goal. Once they achieve their goal and they're governing now, they can then say, well, no, I'm not going to give you the $2,000. I was just, it was a nice idea. That would have been nice. But I'm not going to give you the $2,000 now. I'm going to give you the $600. You don't say, oh, well, you know what? We're not going to give you, we're going to limit your stimulus checks right before, when you're going up against a political opponent that says, yeah, we're going to give you more money. Nobody in this day, when there's a horrendous crisis, when there's a horrendous crisis, why would you say, you know what, we're not just going to give you, we're actually going to give you less money. We're actually going to give you less money. And it's like that was Mitch McConnell right there. That was Mitch McConnell's doing. That's what, he did that. And there was no need to do that. And then he blamed Trump. It's like, well, God, you couldn't Trump had a social media presence, Luke St. Martin! Here's some giblets for your turkey neck. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Luke St. Martin. I really appreciate it. You're the best moderator we've ever had. You and Eric, the regulator, Eric H526. Luke St. Martin, thank you, Luke. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Not only is he an amazing moderator, but he's so generous, so thank you. Luke and Eric, thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, it's unbelievable how clueless, do you think, how are you going to, if you're the Republican Party, and Luke, thank you again, how are you going to overcome the obstacles that you face in terms of enthusiasm? How are you going to, they have every conceivable advantage, Democrats. They have all of media, all of Hollywood, all the social media algorithms. They have intelligence operatives. They outspend Republicans. So tell me how you're going to overcome that with Mitt Romney or Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush, the Lincoln Project, Jeb Bush is represented by the Lincoln Project. Nobody wants them. I would never associate with any political party that wants to send Americans, bunch of Buck Media, hello. I would never associate with any political party that wants to send Americans off to never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. Democrats and establishment or Rhino or Never Trumpers, insubordinate, hello. Hello, Paul. Hello. My thing is, if President Trump if he toned it down a little, if he just toned it down, because you have to, I think every one of the 74 million Americans should look and say, okay, very likely we would pick Trump again. Almost certainly we would pick Trump again. But President Trump has to learn from missteps. He has to learn from missteps. What were some of the mistakes that he made? What were some of the mistakes? What were some of the missteps? What could he have done better? And if you fix those problems, there's no stopping. Look, all you need in 2022 is a House. If you can get the House and the Senate, that would be amazing. But you need the House, and we'll get the House in 2022. They have the smallest majority. Am I back up? We're good now, okay. All right. So no need to tubing. No, just joking. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back up. We got 76 viewers. That's what I'm talking about. HA blinked twice. All right, Joey, I fixed it, kind of. So, yeah. So basically, let's just read this right here. Let's just read this I like the Wall Street Journal. It'd be nice if they stood by Trump, but that's asking a lot. I love the New York Post. 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 Okay, so let's see. So Trump hits back at Wall Street Journal. And so the thing is, like, hitting back at the Wall Street Journal, it's like, this is good, but see, also, like, he needs to work behind the scenes. The grievances of Trump past. If he was so great politically for the GOP, why is the party now out of power? Well, because Democrats have every conceivable possible advantage. And they have Twitter that basically exists to prop up and to elevate and to amplify the most ridiculous and absurd accusations against Trump and try to undermine and sweep under the rug and erase any legitimate issues with, Biden's son, for example. The great sigh of relief you heard on Sunday was the sound of Democrats and media welcoming Donald Trump's return to the public attention with his speech. What would Washington Post writers do without him? Well, that's true. But that's the issue. See, that they actually address one of the biggest drawbacks, one of the biggest disadvantages that Trump faced. The Washington Post was obsessed with him. Washington Post actively suppresses any story about Democrats. And they obsess and they focus, like they have a laser focus on any transgression, any controversy, any scandal associated with Republicans. So it's like, let's just continue reading. So, as for Republicans and Mr. Trump, the future isn't clear as the press and the former president would like. The conservative crowd cheered his speech, which was largely a collection of greatest political hits. But if the conservative political action represented America, Mr. Trump would still reside in the White House. But see, that, again, is not... He lost to Joe Biden, the old Democratic horse, by 7 million votes. He also lost 5 states he carried in 2016, even Georgia. That's the cold GOP reality. Well, yeah, but they have every conceivable advantage. They have every possible advantage. Without Hollywood propping them up, like, you can't, there's no entertainment anymore. Every single, there's no, the internet, cyberspace, even though in many ways, Trump has he's more popular on the internet than any Democrat. The internet platforms work to undermine Trump, and they've always worked, especially Twitter and Facebook, mainly Twitter. But Twitter is like the best thing that ever happened to Trump was that he's not on Twitter anymore. That's the best thing that ever happened to Trump. So, he lost it by 7. That's the cold GOP reality as the former president seeks to dominate the party from exile and tease a 2024 comeback. Now, here's an interesting point. Is there anyone even close or capable? Is there anyone in the same universe as Trump capable of doing anything in the Republican Party? No. Nobody wants, Republicans in general and independents and anyone who, former progressives, anyone who voted for Trump, there's no way they would go vote for Romney. There's just no way. DeSantis is, yes, that's true. Supreme El Bay, that's true. Ron DeSantis is viable, but that's only if President Trump doesn't run. I mean, the next 2 years, I would say until the end of 2022, I mean, you're going to be going into 2023. You know, it's 2021 now. You got to have all of 2021, all of 2022. So basically, we're about around 2 years away. A little less than 2 years away. You know, a little less than 2 years away. And in the next 2 years, President Trump has to... Okay, the Wall Street Journal is wrong, but at the same time, they inadvertently make a point. President Trump can't simply always say, I don't like you, if Mitch McConnell or somebody says something, it's like there's a point of diminishing returns when you constantly hit back. It's okay to hit back, but you have to also have a ground game. Like in MMA, you can't just, strike. You have to have a ground game. You have to know how to, jiu-jitsu or, know how to grapple. You can't just be, a boxer. You have to, if you're in the octagon, you have to know a whole bunch of things. So President Trump can't just always counterpunch. He can't always simply leave it at that. He has to build some kind of alliance or bridge. They want mittens. Hi, Caroline. Hello. They want mittens because Mittens Romney is a good Republican. He's a good Republican. I mean, the adult in the room. Somebody has to be a good Republican. To not insult people and to go along with any foreign policy disaster and debacle that Democrats want. And not to push too much. We don't want to upset the establishment. You're a good Republican. You're an adult in the room like Jeb Bush. Jeb Bush was a good Republican. Mittens Romney was a good race. He put his dog on top of his car for a cross-country trip. It was, that dog was so happy in 20-degree weather with the wind flowing through his coat. Yes, who wouldn't like being strapped onto the roof of a car on a freeway in 20-degree weather? That's a fantastic feeling. Mittens did that. WW to help pay for your Wi-Fi. Right? WW, thank you. WW, thank you. WW, I'm a good Republican. Caroline, I'm a good Republican. I coif my hair really nicely. Not orange like that orange monster. That orange mane from Hades. Trump. The Trump who stole Christmas. I don't insult people because nobody ever sets me up and frames me. The intelligence community is good with me and I'm good with them. I'm just a different type of politician from the Democrats, but I'll provide a nice, sober, and responsible alternative. Not an irresponsible alternative. Trump is irresponsible. He's irresponsible. And I'm a good Republican. Mittens Romney. That's what they think. That's what they want. WW, thank you. Luke St. Martin, thank you. WW, that's what they want. They want a good Republican. We welcome the debate, but if 2020 was so fabulous, why are Republicans shut out of power and up and down Pennsylvania? Who was saying it was fabulous? They have zero influence over the $1.9 trillion spending extravaganza they rightly deplore. Democrats are slowly erasing the Trump legacy on tax deregulation. Yeah, but they're not erasing his legacy on, foreign policy. Well, actually, being the first president to step foot in North Korea and the Abraham Accords, I'll take the Abraham Accords. I'll take the first president to step foot in North Korea over Trump's personality, his alleged horrendous. This is the thing. You have people who it is a psychological issue. The Roz, hello. It is a psychological issue. Contempt. I've never seen this contempt for anyone. Contempt and disdain for Trump consumes a person. The only thing I can liken it to is the Eric H526. Everybody here, anyone who's into fantasy, who's the little monster in Lord of the Rings with the precious, that little monster? What's his name? Smaug? What's the monster in what's his name? The monster in Lord of the Rings. Gollum. Okay, precious. Gollum. They turn into Gollum. He was a traitor. He worked with Putin. Vladimir Putin is in Russia. He's horrible. He's mean. He insults everybody. He's a really bad human being. Well, what do you think of President Obama, who had a NATO intervention that ended that it completely, yes, it Golem, thank you. My precious. They completely, turned a country into a failed state. Or Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. They sent Americans off to never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. And you have like, look, there's nobody even close that actually can actually draw. Like, President Obama won, Bill Clinton won. Oh, I remember those days. I was jogging to the McDonald's in my short shorts, in my 90s short shorts. Oh, let me tell you, polyester shorts. They really fit tight, really nice, and, running with Al Gore. You could pretty much decipher everything. Bill Clinton was a good campaigner. He provided more energy than George Herbert Walker. I mean, you just look at anyone. Look, generally, you look at history and you say, the person who can provide the most Timothy, hello. The person who can provide the most enthusiasm does the best. And like, you're not going to get like Rick Scott, Tom Cotton. Ted Cruz is done. I mean, what is he gonna say? Ted Cruz is done. What is he gonna say? You left Texas. You left Texas when thousands upon thousands were going through a very tough situation. You went to Cancun. I mean, like, I like Ted Cruz, but like, what are you doing? And then you say, well, the kids are expecting it. Like, what? You tell your family no more vacation. How hard is that to do? He's like, I didn't want to disappoint the kids. I didn't want to disappoint the wife. I told them they're not going to go. What's the problem? How hard is that? How difficult is that? You're not going to Cancun. Well, first of all, you can just go to vacation if you're a senator. I don't know. Like, you just go on a vacation if you want. I don't know. I don't know. Like, so, like, you're not like, Kristi Noem she's great, she's fantastic, but you're talking about, like, you need, one of the things people love about Trump is that he really provides, like, he's the type, he renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA. He had, his administration presided over record low unemployment. And see, here's the problem also. When he had manufacturing jobs, record low unemployment, if he was off of Twitter, if you could go back in time, you can get off of Twitter. I would say, I'm telling you, I swear to God, about 25 to 30% less vitriol and venom. Less. Because, they actually equate his tweets to what a totalitarian and despot and authoritarian would do. Like, they don't have any concept of history. You're talking about a person's personality who signed prison reform legislation and removed Americans from a region of the world we should have left a long time ago. So, I mean, it's like, I would say, you need some, like, President Trump would be unstoppable if he could display or communicate his humanity. I know it sounds corny, but, it sounds like, I don't know, like sappy. But you need to find a way to communicate who you are as a human being. And like too many people don't see Trump as a human being. They see him as a force. They see him as like this creature. They don't see him as this creature that is like an abomination. Like, that's why you have so many morally superior liberals telling their friends and family, I can't be your friend anymore if you support a person. And then they convince them, if you support a person who would insult this person or that person, it's like, well, you support somebody who voted for Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld foreign policy. That's different. That's different. They have to convince themselves, because they have to convince themselves that they're not hypocrites, they're not duplicitous, they're not disingenuous by cutting ties and relationships with people. Because the reality, when the reality seeps in that Trump isn't their worst nightmare, that, like, for example, we have President Biden for 1 year now, who's done what? 1 month? Who's done what? What has he done to save democracy? I want to know what he's done to save democracy. Nothing. What has he done? If anything, like, the White House travel logs aren't being published. You have, like, so many conflicts of interest, it's unbelievable. One of his son's lawyers' colleagues is now a top DOJ official. You have Andrew Cuomo, who is now, his tenure is pretty much done. I mean, he's disgraced. The Lincoln Project is really disgraced. You have the federal probe with Hunter. And you still have the Durham probe special counsel. So, I mean, there's a lot, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot to love. There's a lot to love if you're a supporter of President Trump. A lot to love. There's a lot of things going on. But I mean, everyone's it's like really quiet now. I mean, you have New York's governor that, I mean, he's in a really bad situation. Really bad situation. WW, yes. But you look at what else did they want you to subscribe, but here this didn't have to happen. Incumbent presidential races are typically consolidating elections as the party in power reinforces gains but the party never embraced Trump. That, like, when you have every single Supreme Court nominee, they had Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitt Romney. I mean, those were the three. Like, you had three. Maybe you'll have Manchin, sometimes side with Republicans, but you had 3 to 4 that'll always be the media darlings. More than that now. I mean, you cannot, like, he didn't have the advantages that an incumbent has. He only had disadvantages, and honestly, like, he did an amazing job all on his own. It was basically all on his own. They fabricated scandals and controversies, and they found nothing, and they'll find nothing with, the investigation into his records. And they don't even have an actual, like, legal statute that he broke. That's the hilarious thing. But no other president has had to deal with what he dealt with. But also, if you look, President Trump really fell for a trap. He really fell for a trap. You know, he really, really, really fell for the Twitter handle, the Twitter account. That was the worst thing. And so, and towards the end, the disclaimers on Trump's, like, that just, oh my God, that was so horrible. All of these disclaimers, never a disclaimer on any accusation, allegation against Trump when in 2016, never a disclaimer, never a disputed claim, never a baseless claim. Never like, be careful. You don't want to be swayed by these nefarious views. Oh my God, you don't want to listen to this. It was always like anything goes. You can accuse Trump of anything. And they never and the only times they ever told a Hollywood celebrity to tone it down when it was just way too much. Like, there's a double standard when it comes to everything. Everything. The Trump years are a rare exception, and Mr. Trump never reached a job approval rating of above 50%. Well, that's not true. Oh, actually, that's true. No, sorry, that's true. Despite his policy achievements, the public dislike is personal. Yes, that's true, but he never had the benefit of a media that was objective. And by the way, that is not they're never ever going to treat a Republican. See, the Wall Street Journal editorial board is under the impression. The Wall Street Journal editorial board is under the impression. I agree with you, Trump card 45, I agree with you, is under the impression that if you just had a more palatable Republican, a more establishment Republican would not have achieved what Trump achieved. It's also a more populist party, so there you go. President Trump's hot mic to them is actually more incriminating than the actual report filed at the police station against the current president. Think about that for a second. Think about how disingenuous and hypocritical you have to be. Think of the irony there. It's pretty unbelievable, but there you go. I mean, you just have to, if you have a functioning brain cell, that's it's like they're so obsessed with this suppression of thought, and it's not even information. It's not a suppression of information. It's a suppression of emotion, sentiment. They don't want you to actually feel suspicion. If you are suspicious of the current president or of Democrats, this is a big problem. You have engaged in blasphemy. You cannot be suspicious. A suspicious minds, and we can build our dreams. Suspicious minds, and with an old friend I know, shove it up your nose. You can't even be suspicious. You can't question anything. If you engage in behavior that they find reprehensible, you are just and then pick an example that has nothing to do with you at all. Nothing to do with you at all. No, I was trying to go for Elvis, Luke. That was my Elvis. But that's the thing. That's the thing. They have a double standard that they're allowed to get away with. They are allowed to get away with the double standard. Why? Because they don't have, they simply don't have, there's just no opposition. There's no opposition to any discourse. There's just no opposition at all. Like, you pretty much... No, it was my Elvis. Joey, I was trying to do my Elvis. And with an old friend I know, I try to say hello. Do I see suspicion in your eyes? Here we go again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. All right. It's 55 minutes in. We'll see how long I go. But it's on YouTube. It's pretty good. There's on YouTube you can see like all the different, like, you know, Elvis was amazing. He was amazing, but there's like different, like Elvis in early 60s or late 50s, early 60s, or 70s. All the different Elvises. I like him singing My Way. That's a great song. It's a great song. Paul Anka, great song. Amazing song. Obviously Frank Sinatra. Paul, thank you. But that's the thing. I mean, there's just no, like, this is a fleeting moment, by the way. We saw this, by the way, in the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, believe it or not, Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld had, because of, you know, what happened, which I could totally talk about, but we can't, I don't want to bring it up because of the algorithm, but, you know, the horrendous worst day in American history. If I say the name, it might, you know, ring the alarm in the algorithm, but there was that, you know, the Bush political momentum. He took advantage of that in the wrong, and so did Democrats. You know, people say, like, you know, my baseline is that I wouldn't vote for somebody with the personality of Trump. Yeah, well, I wouldn't vote for somebody who voted alongside Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. Gee, what do you think's worse? Huh? What do you think's worse? So, what do you think's worse? Who do you think? See, this is also an issue. They don't really have policies that they care about. Politics has become morality to them. It's like a moral issue to them. It really is a moral. It's a moral. It provides them like a spiritual type of guidance, or I should say, like, I don't know, like the people. So the people who dislike Trump, they get like. I'm talking about, like, you don't have to like Trump. It's like, here's the thing. Why is it that supporters of President Trump don't care who you vote for, but people who don't like Trump really care if you vote for Trump? It's become this obsession. Like, they got their desired outcome. What more do they want? And now that they were like riding high, oh my God, we're going to erase Trump from history, and then they're like, oh, we have to govern. Ooh. Ouch. How's that working? And everything is so, like, it's so, Every article, Washington is now back to policy. You know, things are a lot quieter. President Biden has so much more to focus on, like breathing and staying awake and eating oatmeal and doing good things to good people and doing people good in good ways. He's a do-gooder, a wonderful person. He's an amazing human being. It wasn't like that when Trump was in office. Trump, don't you love how Trump's no longer in office? I mean, everyone's happy now. We can focus on politics. Like the same failed foreign policy of 16 years prior to Trump. It's business exactly. Business as usual. Business as usual. The hilarious thing is that every day, like the left is like, what? Wait a second. Why did we even think of? Oh my God. They're not happy. They're not getting the stimulus checks they want. They're not getting Green New Deal legislation. They're not getting universal basic income. They're not getting anything they want. Like, they're getting nothing they want. You know, what are they getting? What is it that they're getting that they want? I don't know. Let's look at here. Let's look at let's look at AOC's. Let's look at Bernie Sanders' Twitter account right now. I don't have Twitter. What is he complaining about now? It'd be interesting. They're talking about raising the minimum wage, but they're not going to raise the minimum wage in. And this is okay, you raise the minimum wage, and then you have business owners, and they're going to terminate employees simply because they don't want to pay them the minimum. So it's yes, it would seem like a good thing, but don't you want to focus on economic growth? There's no emphasis on actually, President Trump had economic opportunity zones. The rebuttal is, well, it didn't help. It's well, at least he was trying. Do you have an idea other than raising the minimum wage? Which, yeah, okay, that's fine. Can you for once focus on elevating people out of poverty? Don't you want to focus on that at all? And now there's a limit to what Bernie can talk about. He really can't talk about too much. It's kind of funny. He can't talk about too much. I mean, there's a limit because you have a Democrat. You have a Democratic administration, so it's there's a limit, to what you can comply. And now he's going after Walmart. Okay. Sadly, the Republican Party has turned its back on democracy. Yeah. Tell us more about democracy, Bernie, and how the 2016 primary treated you. How they railroaded you. Oh, that's let bygones be bygones. What? No, everything's fine. Debbie Wasserman. If you say a derogatory word about Deborah Wasserman, you'll have me to contend with. Too many Americans have fought. Oh, here we go. What? You wanted an orderly withdrawal from a region that President Trump... It's amazing. What a tool of the Democratic Party. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I mean, he might be a good human being, but what a tool. My God almighty. My God almighty. Ay, ay, ay. What I don't understand is you got what you wanted. Now you're not even going to get the minimum wage. Now you're not even going to get the minimum wage that you promised voters. Hilarious. It's not hilarious, but it's, Yahoo News. AOC's terrible minimum wage argument. National Review. So they're not even going to get the... What did they get? What are they getting from a Democrat in the White House? Oh, I can tell you a little something about what you're going to get. They're not getting anything. You can't blame Trump for this. It's like... You're not even getting the $2,000 stimulus checks. That's what they campaigned on. So... pretty unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much to my super chat, Luke WW. Thank you, everybody. Tell your friends to be here at 9 to 10 p.m. every evening. I'll be doing a live stream at this time every evening. I'll be doing 3 uploads prior. There might be a day where I do 5, total. But I'm going to try to consistently do. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody. 3 uploads and a live stream at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless. To my super chat, thank you, Luke St. Martin, Eric H526. Thank you so very, very, very much, everyone. Means a great deal to me. Means a lot to me. And it's such a pleasure speaking with all of you. See you tomorrow evening.